So just a question for all the ladies here today. What do you know for sure in your journey with Christ so far? What do you know for sure?
One thing I know for sure is that God is in the details of our lives. It probably says that when you acknowledge God, He will direct your paths. And He has the plans for our lives, but daily, I mean, if you go to like Pick and Pay shop, like the aisle that you walk in, someone you will meet, the timing. God knows, He's so sovereign. I know for sure that God is in the details. Like, I'll meet someone and it's just, God made it happen. In the timing. He will direct where you go. When you acknowledge Him, He will direct your path. And I just see that in every day, the little things, in the details.
For me, I think God prepares you for greater things. He is just a preparer of the way. And I remember myself coming to South Africa, by the way, I come to sing. And coming to South Africa in 2008, there is a prayer that I made. And I remember it clear. That God, I'm leaving Zim and I'm going to South Africa. And one thing that I want to achieve is to shine. And not only shine for myself, but for you. And I remember saying, as I'm going there, I'm going like Joseph without anything. But when I come back, or when I bring my family to South Africa, they are going to enjoy South Africa. Then I learned that God prepares you and He gives you what you declare in your life. And that I'm so sure. By the words, world were blessed. And by your words, things will happen. And that's it.
It's something that I'm only certain of because I've seen that God doesn't change it. Is that His purpose is not based on my ability. It's because it's bigger than me. And I think that is what keeps pushing me. Because it's very easy, all of us we sit here and we have our own fears, insecurities, doubts, everything. You know, Esther was like, I'm from this background, disadvantages. But it's not because of us, but it's because of what God wants to do. And I think that always makes me know that even if God takes me through this, whether I have plenty, whether I have little, whether I'm frustrated, whether I'm joyful, whether I'm content, it's only because that frustration is because God is trying to do something. The joy is because God has placed it in me and I'm walking in the fulfillment of what God wants. So I think it's knowing that wherever I am, whatever it is because it's God's purpose. And because it's God's purpose, it can't change.
He's faithful. He is faithful. I go back to the promises of Scripture. Take my prophetic words that I get, and I ask the Lord, is it true? Some of them are always, not every single prophetic word is related to you. Someone can speak from a heart of their own thoughts, so you have to check with the Lord. But I think one word that stood out for me was straight paths. And then I go to Scripture and I take straight paths and I work with the Lord with this. And if I feel the Lord moves me around a lot, so I can feel like very winding. But then I go back to that one promise that says straight paths. So if I stick with my Scripture and I dialogue with God and I sit with Him, then that keeps me on track, and I know that the Lord is at the end of the road and is very faithful.
You know, one of the things about doing these kind of public kind of things, you know, there's all these beautiful women, Miller's conference, and an ad. And one of the things that she said, and I saw some of you guys came up for the altar call, is that there are things you know you should be doing, but you've been procrastinating professionally and not doing them, right? Same myself, you don't worry. And so you've come up this afternoon, you've been prayed for, and there's just this one common thread that you find with people. So, and then what? Because a lot of times you are gripped with fear. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah? Can you testify to that? Yeah. So my question back to the panel, because in this race that we are all in, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Because day by day you do what you need to do. But you've gotten to certain places that you would love to get to. How have you dealt with fear? First of all, what was the fear? And how did you deal with the fear practically? So that when we are done today, we too can have those practical tools of how we overcome our own fears and are able to win out there. So that we are empowered. Yes, ladies?
Yes.
All right. So, you're looking at me, baby girl. Are you going to start first?
Okay, I can start. This is a bit off topic. Watch Lion King. Anyone watch Lion King?
Okay.
Not yet? Okay, but this is what Simba says, that he laughs in the face of danger, right? And Proverbs says that she laughs in the fear. She laughs without the fear of the future, right? So you have the fears there. When I say you laugh, is that you see the fear and you're asking what is the fear. You need to write down what the fear is. Okay, so the fear is putting yourself out there. People are gonna judge you. People have opinions on you, right? But you have to laugh without that fear. And you laugh at, okay, this is the fear, but that is what came to mind. Like you laugh. You're so confident that God is with you.
Yeah.
That you just like, hey, like I'm doing this. You laugh. You laugh. You just laugh.
As for me, when I came to South Africa again, I was so fearful of the unknown. And usually that's the fear that grips each and everyone. Then I realized that I'm just like a donkey hovering around and not exploring the world to see what's there. The moment that you step out of that fear, that's when miracles starts to happen. A lot of people who stood stagnant at the fear, they never explored what was happening in the world. My greatest fear was, how am I going to supply Pick and Pay with 750 stores from a kitchen? Because that's where I started to make my product, peanut butter, in the kitchen. How am I really going to supply 750 stores in South Africa? Then immediately I thought of that. I said to myself, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not even going to make that appointment to go and meet those Pick and Pay guys because I can't. And you know what happened the next thing? I never called them. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they had to call me and ask me to come for a meeting. And I said, okay, I'm coming tomorrow. But in the night I was telling myself, I'm not going to go there. And that's what fear does. It numbs your mind and it belittles you. That you do not have experience. You are coming from Zim. All you know is how to make peanut butter with an old-fashioned machine. So how are you going to do it? So what fear does, it clouds you. Then you cannot see opportunities. Then you just can't navigate the way. But that morning, when I had made that appointment, I told myself that, you know what? I'll be the greatest insane woman that a retailer comes to you begging for your product and you actually reject it. How can God set a table in front of you, then you say, God, no, I'm not hungry. You know what? I just woke up and went straight to see the big guys from Pick and Pay. I'm like, what do you want? And they're like, you want peanut butter from you? What do you have? I'm like, I have it, but I'm doing it in my kitchen. And they say, don't worry. We will sort you out. What do you want? But fear had
only I had listened to that voice of fear, till today I'll be sitting in my 2-bedroom flat and just trying like a donkey walking around without exploring.
I think for myself, I always ask myself, why am I fearful? Like, what is causing the fear? Because I think if you don't identify the root cause of the fear, it's very difficult to really overcome it, because it'll manifest in a different way in another scenario. So if you didn't deal with something when you were young and you thought, okay, I'm out of this small little, village, I'm going to Cape Town, and then you get here, you encounter the bigger version of your fear. So until you really understand why, because then you realize that most of your fears either come from what other people have said or what other people are doing. So it's usually someone said you can't do it, and that brings about the fear, or someone else is doing well, and then the fear is, I'm not there, or I can't do what they're doing. And someone said, fear failure, not rejection. And what I thought of is, it's true, because you can't say you failed unless you've been able to do it. So I can't say I can't drive, or I can't say no, let me drive. I can't say I can't, achieve 1, 2, 3. I can't actually be a graduate if I've never actually studied and gone through the testing and done the exams. Like, how do you know that you can't do it? So you rather say, okay, you can fear failure, but like rejection just means, oh, I'm not. Your mom says I can't let you go play outside or learn how to ride a bike. Does it mean you can't? Does it mean you failed to do it? Why? Because you haven't done it. So you can't say I'm failure in doing 1, 2, 3 just because you were rejected in doing it. So I think I always used to be like, okay, I was rejected. Oh, you can't get applied here. Okay, you can't go into your honors this year. Does it mean it stops my ambition to be then the Minister of Education? I'm like, no, it's fine. You don't want to let me do it. That's okay. That's your opinion, but it shouldn't stop you. And there's this story. I don't know if anyone has Wi-Fi and has a phone, please Google tied circus elephant, and then show your neighbor. So okay, for us, the circus elephants are tied by the ankle with a little rope, a very thin rope. And he asked, how is it that the elephant is still very tame and stable? And he said, well, how we train them is when they're young, we tie them with the very same rope. And they keep trying, and they can't get out because they're younger and they're smaller. And they get hurt, and they'll start bleeding, so they're used to it. So I don't need to try anything different when they're older, because when they see the rope, they say, I can't do it. Even though they're bigger, even though they're more grown. So when I read that story, I was like, wow, like we have this power within us. I have ambition, I have God with me. And yes, I may have failed once, I may have gone through this, but then I grow older, I'm wiser, I'm growing my spiritual life. Yes, the spiritual intelligence, the wisdom, I'm being prepared and positioned, and yet my thoughts hold me back. That very thin rope of failure or something else I went through is the only thing, that small thing has the power to hold me back. And I realized that if that elephant didn't, like if it just tried one more time with this new strength that it had, it doesn't know it because it sees this and thinks this equals failure. This equals I can't do it. So I think that for me is like what helps me to overcome, to go, okay, actually what I'm fearing, yes, it's legit. It's not to say that you won't fail. When you try that business, you won't go bankrupt. Those the realities of it. But do I really want it enough to be okay to pass through those things to get to what I want to go to?
About the fear. It was so hard for me to write something and to send it to Melody. And I went through such an emotional, small, thin rope situation. And I think, I'll explain now, but I just want to say first that I think to combat fear, you have to realize it's a spirit. It is something to demolish. It is not just an emotion. It is I felt a very heavy attack. I think we have to know what is it that God wants us to do. You have to have a clear vision. You have to have a promise. You have to have something that you want to attain. But I say what you want to attain. I should rephrase it. You have a life book. The Lord has given us a pathway to walk on. We came from heaven. And when we came from heaven, there were scrolls and books about our lives written. Your steps are ordered. And I think to combat the fear is to ask the Lord, what is it that I need to do? Because there's crowns and there's rewards and there is life with the Lord and there's places in heaven. It's far from Him or it's close to Him, and we want to be close to Him. You want to live a life on earth that is spiritually dynamic and full of adventure, and you want to live with the Lord very real next to you. Okay, so clear vision, combat the fear, realize it's a spirit, and how the Lord gives you strategy, deal with it. David killed Goliath with 2 pictures in his hand. The one was of a bear and the other one a lion. And there was Goliath in front of him. So he had some ammunition in himself. He knew, I can do this. So take your past and go and write your victories. And that is what you walk on this path. And then I just want to quickly say where this fear came from and just explain to you how vulnerable I felt. And I wrote a lot about my modeling, and it's probably the first time in almost 20 years that I wrote anything about that or put it out in public. And Melody invited me because she heard a little bit of my testimony. She invited me on that level, so that's why I wrote about it. But it was an intense trauma for me to do that. And I realized it was because that brought a lot of rejection. It brought a lot of hurt. In the fashion industry, there was a lot of expectations. So it brings a lot of bad memories. So how you combat fear with that is you realize what it is that makes you so upset. But I've noticed that where you come from, where it was very painful, that is what the Lord later brings you back into and uses you there. So where the enemy tries to destroy you, the Lord takes you and uses you. And that's why I say you need to know your book, because the enemy knows it as well. And there's victory. And remember Joseph. He was in the jail. He was there for a very long time. Can you imagine how he felt and where he ended up? So yeah, I just want to say it's a real emotion. It's a real battle sometimes, fear. But for me personally, I seek the face of Jesus. I seek His eyes. In His presence. When you go in the secret place and you sit with the Lord and He tells you 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and the Father says to you, in my word, I will give you all the answers. You can walk in victory.
Pretty heavy, are we equipped? You get on your feet, ladies. Stand. And you get yourself a little bit of space. Get yourself some space. Is that enough space for you? And I want you to do this. You're going to say, I'm stepping out of fear.
I'm stepping out of fear.
Okay, that's cute. Get some space. Get some space. Get some proper space. Okay. Are you ready to do this again? Yeah. All right. On the count of 3, you're going to do I'm stepping out of fear. 1, 2, 3, I'm
Stepping out of fear.
Okay, great. Give yourself a hand. Okay. Now we got the juices going. So this is going to be one of the last questions I'm going to ask the panel because I obviously want to give you guys an opportunity to ask questions. And just encourage you as well, this is a safe space. This is a very safe space for you. If there is an opportunity to get wealth and get information, today is the day to ask those questions. So don't be held back. There's absolutely no judgment. So think about what it is that you want to ask the panel. I mean, if the panel can't answer, everybody else can also contribute, whatever. We're here to empower each other because we've all got wealth and pockets of knowledge inside us. So just think about what it is that you're going to ask, because I'm going to ask these beautiful ladies one more question, then I'm going to throw it to you. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. So ladies, also because we're practical, and you women are women in the marketplace, I would like to find out from you, how do you represent the gospel or this thing called Christianity or your faith? How do you carry yourself in the marketplace, which is dominated in so many different things? And how do you stay authentic and relevant? Because, you know, like I say, I've sat in boardrooms and I've had friends who are like, I need to pray about that, and I'm like, this is not the time to pray, this is the time to speak. You understand what I'm saying? But you have to have that balance because there's a space for prayer. So the question is, how do you balance that, and how do you stay relevant, and how do you represent the kingdom in your skin? Yes, you know, yes, thank you.
Is it on? Yes. What came to mind now was the Lord wasn't a softie when he walked the earth. He didn't. We'll explain to you later. You know, that's Siri. She's from the world. She doesn't understand. He wasn't soft. You see, he told it like it was. But doing that, telling it like it is, we have very different personalities, and I've had to learn to tone it down. I can be very straightforward, and I had to soften the edges. But as I'm learning to do that, I think what the Lord is showing me is link it with the fruits of the Spirit. So it's so difficult sometimes. In a corporate world, when you work for someone, when you are in a group of people, when you are, just stay grounded in the fruits of the Spirit, because the Lord said you will know them by their fruit. And the other thing is, love each other, don't quarrel, don't fight, don't reject each other, don't. But the world is going to see Jesus when we love each other, and they feel it, when it's authentic love for sisters. That is very vital in a church. So I think, that is to stay authentic.
Just with being relevant and authentic, I think being humble, you need to come down. And that's where, to be relatable to people, especially as Christians, I think we have the thing of, well, especially if you are on a platform and you're a Christian, it's as if you have it going, like your relationship with God is the one. And you have to be so humble to the fact where you're saying, like, we have this grace. And I am a mess. Like, I am a child of God, but I am a mess, and we are going through the same struggles. So that's where you become authentic, you become relatable. That's very, very key. And I feel that's where God works as well. Just coming down, being humble, not being on this high horse of I got it all right. So look at, no, obviously as you're doing your best to live right? Paul does say that I put self-control on myself. After I preach, I go and I do what I say. You have that self-control. You live the life of a Christian, but you have to come down. You have to come down. Yeah.
I think adding on to what she is saying is there are times when you feel like you have reached that. You have reached it. And one person said that's the moment that you start to fall dramatically. You will really fall. The moment that you start to feel yourself that I'm there, that's when you start to be irrelevant. Right? That's when you start to lose being you, and you lose it all. So I think a very important thing, especially for me, is to understand that Eden is not mine. It's not mine. And I have been to conferences where people, I don't want even to be known or related to it. Because when I started it, it was about God and not me, and hence the name Eden. So whenever they ask me about the name, the corporate world is filled with people who do not believe. I remember pitching my product to one of the people and was saying, what about Eden? So what's Eden? And I'm trying to refer to Adam and Eve, and I totally blew it off. They don't care about that. But you know what, as a Christian, and I was so honest with the panel that with me, if you like my product, you ought to know and understand where it's coming from. It's coming from God, and it's coming from Eden, and I want to take people back to Eden through their mouths, what they eat and all that. And that's my story. I can't change it to frame it into what you want. Because along the way we tend to want to fit into environment and to fit into the world and try to jeopardize it and say, no man, it was just a name that came. No, mine came from the Garden of Eden, and that's it. Whether you want God or whether you don't want God, that's not my problem. It's your problem that you need to deal with. But my one is that this product is Eden and it's representing God. And that's it. And if you don't want it, it means you don't want my God. So I'm comfortable to live with. And I have contracts that I have refused. All because in the name of protecting the name of God and myself. And I think as women and as young women who are growing up, we need to come to that level whereby it's God or it's nothing. It might be in the choice of boyfriend or choice of place where you're going to stay. It's either God or it's not me. It's nothing. And that's how we derive our individuality or who we are. So I think that's very important to know that you are just a steward of what you have. And most of us, we lose that. That when you now drive a Mercedes Benz, you think that you own God. No, God even owns Obama in America. And I always tell people that you know what, there is nothing to be proud of about myself. Because I know it's all about God. And I'm not surprised when this thing is to fall one day. It means the purpose is purpose. It has just ended. It has finished. And I'm about to be elevated to another level. So in every level of my life, I'm okay.
Okay, guys. And I'm also going to name mine Eden. I think practically, in terms of representing God, I think what Lisa said actually resonates with me is being relatable. Because I think actually what everyone said actually touches everything, because it's being relatable but also doing it with the fruits of the Spirit. Because you can't, even if you don't say it, somehow someone will know that you're a Christian somewhere along the line. They'll say, come work on a Sunday. You've been the rudest person. You come in at 10 and you're like, oh, I have these excuses. And they're like, come in on Sunday, we need to finish those plans. No, I have church. Oh, I go to church. Now they're confused. Is this the same person? So I think being yourself, but also, it's virtue. It's also understanding that, okay, I am where I am, but I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. So a lot of times, I think think it's Melody actually said it when she was speaking that we like the big, we don't want to start small. So you get started in this position and, you know, Cape Town rent is expensive, so you think you should get a job that pays more, and you're like, just this much, and we think that we're above that, you know. So we don't actually want to put in the effort. When, as young people, we don't want to actually work and say, it's fine, I'm earning this much, but I'm actually going to put in the work, I'm gaining experience, I'm willing to do the running around, if that's what it means, so that eventually it will put me in that position of favor. One day, someone will go, actually, now I need someone to do this task, but you've been faithful, or I've seen that you put in the effort. So I think it's less, okay, I have to tell people about God every day, but it's more, what are my behaviors, my characteristics, my attitude? Am I also gossiping about this person? Am I saying, okay, how can I uplift this person? Oh, you're talking about this, let me find out, why were you mean today? Why were you grumpy? So I think it's just showing that love every single day to that person, that one day they can ask, why are you different? You know, what do you have? Where were you yesterday? Then you can start sharing that testimony, but not wanting to like, okay, I'm Christian, everything must change from the get-go. Just showing that love constantly.
Yeah.